Hey everyone, Raleigh here again, and we're going to talk about the brain. What? What's happening inside the brain? The cool thing about the brain is you can't cheat it. It's doing its thing. If you understand what the brain is doing, you'll actually start changing how you're doing things. And so that's what is important. So the brain, I don't know how to draw a brain. Drawing a brain, is the brain stem go this way or something like that? Whee! Okay, there's our brain. Squiggle, 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 squiggle. I don't know, there's a brain. Something's probably wrong. That's probably backwards or something. Okay, here's what we need to understand. Why do we care about the brain? We care about the brain because your ability to learn, change, adapt is all dictated by the brain. Your ability to move is dictated by the brain. Your ability to, everything's dictated by the brain. So it's super important that you understand the brain. Now, this is what I've gathered. I am not a scientist, okay, but this is what I've gathered from researching Google. And if you're new to this, just remember, I don't keep my videos sexy. These are very boring videos with no graphics and no editing and blah. So there you go. It's like hanging out with me in person, but not. Okay, the brain wants certain things, and you're not going to cheat it. And that's important to understand. You're not going to cheat the brain. Now, why do we care? Because Elon Musk talked about first principles. And so when he talked about building a rocket, he used first principles. He looked at the raw materials and he said, how much would it cost to build a rocket in raw materials? And he saw the price and he's like, oh, that's not that much money. And then he's like, okay, so the difference between buying the raw materials and actually producing the rocket, the difference between there is where all the money is. He said, so if I can just build a rocket for cheaper, then I make money. So he's like, this is a good idea. First principles. Well, our brain is a first principle. We need to understand how the brain operates so that we can better understand how we operate, because you are dictated by your noggin. Okay, so here's some simple things you need to understand. The brain loves making decisions. And this is like a spelling class because I don't know if I spell my words correctly. Okay, the brain loves making decisions. So if you're like, I love procrastinating, no, you're not a procrastinator. You're just distracted by making other decisions. You're just putting off those decisions because these decisions are more easy or interesting. Oh, I'm just going to binge watch Netflix. Those are easy decisions. So you love making those decisions. You get to make the decisions of if you like something or don't like something while you're watching it. I like that character. Oh, I don't like that character. Oh, this is really good. You're making all these decisions. Your brain loves making decisions. Your brain also has something called decision fatigue. Fatigue. Okay, and that's when it makes too many decisions. It's like, I'm done. Turn off, power off, sleep mode. Okay, when your brain makes too many decisions, decision fatigue. So here's the problem. When you binge watch Netflix early in the morning or early in the day, and then you do that for 4 hours, and then you got to go make big decisions, your brain's tired. So this goes back to like the Goggins and the Jocko kind of conversation where it's like, do the things that suck first because it's going to take the most amount of brain power, and then you put all your brain power there and then you have all the easy decisions to go, and so now you're just going downhill instead of starting here and being like the easy decisions, and then you're like freaking mountain, oh my goodness, I'm going to die today. And then you just put it off. And you're like, I'm a procrastinator. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're just terrible at prioritizing your decision-making skills. Your brain loves making decisions. Okay, cool. Your brain also loves patterns. Patterns. Okay? Why does our brain love patterns? I don't know. I don't know why our brain loves patterns. Yes, I do know. I do. You know why our brain loves patterns? Our brain loves patterns because it's a survival tactic. Okay? When you can recognize danger and you can recognize safety, patterns, then you can go through life a little bit easier. Also, patterns create reflexes, which is what people use the term as muscle memory. It's a stupid word. Like, there's no memory in our muscles. It's all in our brain, okay? But it's a reflex. So why don't they just say make your reflexes better? Because that's what it is, okay? It's a reflex, and your brain's wired now because of these patterns to react and respond a certain way because of information that's coming in, and so all of a sudden it's like, bam, there I am. It's a pattern. And so patterns improve our reflexes, improve our shortcuts. You know what the biggest problem with discrimination is? It's built in through patterns. We learn to discriminate because of the patterns that we've wired in our brain. And so part of this whole discourse in hot topic issues is a lot of people are trying to rewire the types of patterns we're looking for. And so that's a lot of problems with discrimination, is it's just a pattern recognition that's built into us. You discriminate against food because you've built in patterns that foods that look this way taste this way, and then you're like, I don't like those foods. And so you're able to recognize things through those patterns. And that's something that our eyes and our ears and or tactile, everything just picks up on is the pattern. Okay, so we have decisions, we have patterns, and we have another element, which is curiosity. Okay, our brain is very curious. Now, I don't have this fully dialed in, but from what I understand, you have a brain neuron happening, and you have some like dendrites and an axon. I think it's axon. One end, I got two ends, okay? And one end is connecting. It's like connecting and finding the other neurons, okay? And the other end is like receiving, like connect to me, and those are like the dendrites, I believe. They're like, connect to me. Okay, the thing that was interesting is like, how does a brain neuron know? Like, I think I'm going to connect to this one. It doesn't know anything. So it's got to have some sort of chemical signal happening. And it's like, okay, I think I'll connect. And then, oh, I think I'll connect. Curiosity. It's connecting. Now, this is what's interesting to me. Is so the neurons are like looking. They're like curious. Like, who should I connect to? I don't know. And they're trying to connect all inside our brain, you know. They're like, oh, here's these points. And the brain's like, okay, I'm going to connect to this guy. And then maybe I'll connect over here. And then I'll connect here. And then here. And then here. And so it's creating this path. And what I learned, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is true, is that after your brain creates a connection path, it finds a pathway. You know, you learn to play an instrument, you're very uncoordinated. Let's play playing the guitar, and you're like strum, and then you're like finger placement. You're like strum, and then you're like finger placement. And it's like very not, you couldn't play music like that, right? And a lot of that is because you're wired your brain through like the slowest path possible, but it's the quickest path because it's the quickest because your brain can identify, oh, that part, that, okay, good, let's connect it all, good, we have something to work with. Okay, so your brain connects things to how we got something to work with. So the curiosity drives this, okay, what do we connect? Dots, okay, good, we got it. But it's not efficient. It's not productive, it's not efficient, we can't do something with it. So over time, your brain goes, yeah, we don't need that, let's connect over here. And then over time, your brain goes, oh, we don't need that, let's just go here to here. And then over time, your brain goes, oh, we don't need that point either, let's just go straight to the thing. And then over time, your brain goes, oh, I don't even need that point either, we'll just go straight through now, we've figured it out. And so that's the reason why repetition is so important, but you have to have a level of curiosity to then be chasing after, how am I going to connect to all these dots? If you're not curious about dot connections, okay, how does this connect into that? If you're not curious about it, your brain's not making those connections, you're not actually going to get better. As you connect things and as you get better and do more repetition, then the myelin starts going around the neurons, and that's the white matter, and then pretty soon you basically are able to create faster synchronization, more precise synchronization, faster speeds, because you're myelinating now, because you've even done higher repetitions essentially. And that's really driven through curiosity. So that's what it is. So like if you're doing a skill or you're doing something, you're not curious about the thing you're doing, on how to do it even better and how to be more observant and aware. If you're not curious about the process even more curious, then your brain doesn't make better and better wiring connections. So you ever see people who are just like clumsy, they just walk and they just stumble on it? It's because they're not taking in information, because they're not interested in taking in information. For me, I don't actually, rarely ever do I ever trip, stumble, or fall, because I'm paying attention on a peripheral, subconscious level. I'm taking in all the information of things that are on the ground. Why am I doing that? I have no idea. But that's just what I do, is I take information in, I know where unlevel surfaces, it's probably because I coach gymnastics and I'm aware of all my surfaces, and so I'm taking all that in. So when I walk, I'm avoiding all those things that someone else might just trip on and fall, because they're not taking in that sensory input. And so there's a curiosity where it's like you have to open yourself up to being more curious about these things. They create better habits, it's more input coming into your system, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I'm really good at something. That's it. You're just really good at something because you became more curious about it. So this is what your brain wants to do. If you want to get better at something, just understand that you have a decision fatigue problem. If you want to get better at something, you need to start recognizing the patterns, because the patterns will make you better. And if you want to get better at something, you need to become more curious, because that's what your brain is operating on. Your brain is actually operating on these areas. Now that's operating on more, but that's it. People love making decisions. You love making decisions. You love having control. Some of you are like, oh, I hate this video, and you just exited out of it because you have the decision to do that. I'm making the decision to make the video because I like making decisions. And we all like making decisions. Even toddlers love making decisions. And so when we take the control from somebody, we have anxiety. We're like, I don't have any control because I don't know how to make the decisions. Anxiety comes from not being able to make decisions in the future. You're like, I don't know what decision decisions to make in the future. I don't have the skill set. And pattern problems for the future create anxiety because you're like, I don't know what patterns to recognize. What happens if when I go in, what am I going to experience? I don't have any patterns to recognize. That's why simulations, and that's why doing kind of an acting out situation, acting it out like maybe you're going to go do a job interview and you're going to do a practice interview with somebody. So you can build some pattern recognition. So that's why you do pre-work. You do your research, essentially, to build pattern recognition, so when you go into the real thing, you're more accustomed to the patterns. And then we have this curiosity level where we're just like so curious on things that don't matter, like social media. Oh my goodness, what's next, what's next, what's next? We got this curiosity, but we're not curious about the things that actually do matter. Like we're not curious on asking maybe our spouse better questions so we can connect to them, or asking our kids better questions so we can connect to them. Or we're not curious on what's driving somebody to make that decision. We just get mad about it. Why'd they cut me off? Didn't they see I was here? We're not curious about, well, what are all the reasons why they could have cut me off? Well, they could have cut me off because they're rushing to the hospital. They could have tried to cut me off because someone's robbing their home. They could have cut me off because they're eating a hamburger and didn't even see I was there. Like, we could get curious about things. And if we get curious about things, it opens up potentials, and then it can change our whole mood and our demeanor. And our brain is dictated by that. And so when you shut off the curiosity, you're going to have problems. And when you shut off the patterns, you're going to have problems. And when you shut off the decision making, you're going to have problems. And so I hope you can understand some of these things and start seeing where they show up in your life. The next time you get mad, angry, frustrated, or something doesn't go your way, ask yourself, is it a decision, pattern, or curiosity problem? I would be very, very surprised if one of those three does not show up in a problem that you're dealing with. Okay? For example, patterns. I've been married now for 4 years, and I did not know what patterns to look for in marriage. There's patterns. Patterns of behavior, patterns of conversation, emotional patterns, communication patterns, and I didn't know what to look for, so I wasn't looking for any of those patterns. We had to go to therapy and get help to say, look, Raleigh, there's these patterns that you need to be looking for. It's like, oh, and once you see these patterns, now here's the decisions you need to make upon those patterns. Oh, cool, I got it. Now I know what patterns to look for, now I know what decisions to make, and things get ironed out so much better because our brain is wanting to make decisions. It wants patterns, and it is curious. And if you chase those things at the first principle, then your brain just locks in on life. Way better. It doesn't need to be gimmicky. Stop chasing gimmicks. This is how your brain is working. Work with your brain the way your brain is working. Stop chasing the gimmicky stuff. So there you have it. I'm done. See you later. Love you all. Bye.